we're a product of our environment. It's as much biological as it is environmental. And when you come from a broken family, when you're taught that there's not much value in relationships, if I am raised or if I have so many experiences where it's scary to be vulnerable, and men, we already struggle with vulnerability, it's going to make sense that that might be a pattern for me to be aware of. I can also say that vulnerability is where you get to heal from that.
Yeah.
When we struggle with trust, in some ways, we also struggle with our self-worth, because we need to trust people, and we need to trust ourselves.
Adam, what's up, brother? We were just hanging out at ITAP, and now we're virtual, which is lame. I way rather I should have brought my microphone to the conference.
I know, 3D to 2D, but we're good, man. We vibe well.
Yeah, of course. So whatever you guys do not turn this episode off just because you are like, oh, well, my wife hasn't cheated on me. Because I know, the bulk of statistically, there are more women getting cheated on than men. However, I don't think the numbers are actually as far off as everyone likes to think. Personally, I was cheated on twice by women, by the way, who you would have never, ever, like, my family was baffled when I told them that they cheated on me. My family was like, oh, no way, she could never do that. So my point is, it happens. And if you're a guy who has betrayed your wife listening to this, which I know is a huge bulk of my audience, I still want everybody to listen, because the principles matter and they can be applied. And honestly, some of you guys have been cheated on in the past, maybe not by your wife. And you're going to hear me ask Adam a lot of questions, because as I'm looking at my note sheet here, 3 of the things that I have written down is, am I over my being cheated on? And was me being cheated on, did that lead to my compulsive behavior? And so I have a couple questions there, because I do know for a fact that a lot of my listeners have been cheated on in the past, maybe not by their current wife. And I do wonder, Adam, how much of that has affected my compulsivity to this day with my 1 foot in, 1 foot outness, right? So I want to talk about that eventually as well. But first off, Adam, introduce yourself to the audience briefly. Tell them the name of the book, how you got into it, who you work with, and then we'll dive right in.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
I know.
We'll hang more in person, though. Adam Nisenson. I'm an LMFT. I'm also a CSAT. I'm known as the Betrayal Shrink. I actually just wrote, I've been told it's the first book written by a man for men around partner betrayal. And actually, I prepared, I have a copy right here, but you can get your copy on Amazon like you can get everything in the world today. And so my specialty, my practice, my passion, my expertise is working with that small sliver, if you will, of men that have been cheated on by their partner. And what you were talking about, Roland, guys, even if you think you've never been cheated on, I think there's a lot you can just learn about relational dynamics. And if you've cheated on your partner, and men and women, right, we're not the same. And often the impact and experience can be and feel the same. But the other part that I think is really fascinating and got me to get to this place is a couple things. One, my ex-wife cheated on me with her business partner, and we could talk about that later. And then being a therapist, and what was starting to happen was men were starting to tell me, like years after working with them, like, oh, my ex-wife cheated on me, or I had a girlfriend and she cheated and broke my heart, and I think about it still today. And what I realized is, and I already know this because I'm a man, right? But we tend to hold shit in. Can I say shit? I just said it twice. Right. And that's just kind of behaviorally how we do things, and we don't share, and we run away from vulnerability and our feelings and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, Roland, what we can analyze if you're over it or not too, right? But those things stick, and they leave an impression on how we interact in our relationships and with other people, and how we show up. And often I see with men, either it kills or it cuts our ego, or it inflates our ego. Like, I'll never have that happen again. I'll never tell anyone. Right. And let's be honest, neither one of those are a good way to show up in the world. So
yeah. So Adam, are you cool using me as an example for this?
whatever. Yeah, man.
Let's do it.
Actually, we said we're just winging it today. If it doesn't work, we'll just, I don't
We'll
know.
try it again the next time. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know.
So yeah, let's use me for example for some of this. So first off, Adam, I didn't tell anyone when it happened. I only told people after we broke up. I bet you some women do this too, maybe. It sure seems like women will at least reach out to a friend or two or three. I didn't tell my best friend. I didn't tell nobody. I didn't tell anyone. And I'll tell you right now why I didn't tell anybody. And I don't have to look back in hindsight. I already know why I didn't tell anyone back then. I was embarrassed, because to me, the story I made up was if she decided to go do this with this other guy, that he's better than me. And so being a high achiever with a tasteful splash of narcissism and superiority and grandiosity, that is not a story I like. The idea that
doesn't fit the narrative.
Yeah, no, I hated it. And to be honest, Adam, as I reflect back both times, I pretended to be madder than I was. And I think I really was mad, but it was so harmful to the guy that I worked so hard to be that I kid you not, I got over it in air quotes. I got over it that day, brother. I'm telling you, I'm serious. I think back to both times that I found out, I was mad for maybe 6 hours. And brother, I'm not kidding you. I was pretending to be mad at her the next day. But to be honest with you, I was kind of past it in terms of how it was affecting me. I literally shoved it down, put it in a little box, put it away, shamed her, and then moved on with my life and never thought about it again. I'm telling you, both times, I think I don't know, like it sounds insane. We literally a month later, we're past it. And I never spoke about it again in the relationship. But again, I think to say that I was over it is a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's everything you just described is what I hear and see all the time in my work. Right. And there's the stigma, there's the shame, there's the social expectations for men. And the other big thing is there's a huge lack of resources out there for men, right? Like that's why I wrote my book and the things I'm creating right now. That's right. There's just not enough for men.
If I was betrayed, all the groups that I'm aware of, and I'm in the field, all of the groups that I'm aware of are full of women. If I got into it, I'd probably ask for a refund or just stop coming. I mean, it's just such a different dynamic there, right?
Yeah, 100%. And then I think the other part is, and I have a lot of clients that have experienced this, and it's that old like, oh man, you'll be fine, right? Like buck up, right? Like men, we're taught to put our heads down and just keep moving forward and not cry and not feel it and pretend it didn't happen or just fix it, pretend as if, right? And so those stereotypes are super detrimental to men. I mean, this is the kind of stuff, and this can sound dramatic, but this is the stuff that kills us, right? There's a great book, The Body Keeps the Score, if you've ever heard of it or read it, but it's that whole idea that trauma and the things we experience in life stick and they grow and they fester, right? And it can cause disease, it can cause depression. And like, you just never know, like when those things show up. I'll tell you, Roland, like writing this book, right? It was 12, 13 years ago since I had my betrayal experience. I wrote the book it's been over a year now, right? About a year and a half or so. And man, sometimes writing it, and I would, each chapter kind of as a part of my experience. And like, I would get those like kind of feelings, like, damn, man, like, oh, I thought I was over this. And I am over it, but there's still that little bit, right? There's still that voice or that part. And so writing the book actually ended up being really healing. The other part that I actually really enjoyed and cringed at the same time was realizing all the things that I did wrong, right? We can get into that if you want, right? But but that, because I didn't have any guidance, and actually my ex and I, we'd gone to therapy, and it was just a cluster. It was no good. I mean, the therapist, I remember, was like, well, what's your part? And I was like, my part, I didn't do right. Like, and then I started going, did I have a part? Like, sure, I had a part, like the marriage was falling apart, but I did not have a part. There's nothing, and I want to say this to all the men out there, there's nothing you do or can ever do that gives another person, even if you cheat on your partner, that doesn't give them permission to go out and cheat. Right. And I'll actually tell you this: if your partner cheats on you and they say, oh, you should go cheat too, don't do it. Right. It makes it worse. And then it ends up being about you. And then you're into your extra shame and your self-worth gets more. It's bad. And when partners do that, it's because they don't want to take accountability. They're gaslighting you, and they're projecting their victimhood onto you.
Yeah.
I see that stuff happening. I'm getting into the weeds. Don't do that, guys, ever.
Well, this dynamic is and a lot of the guys listening to this have betrayed their wives, just because that's my primary audience. But, this dynamic, just like we have cheated, we know it had nothing to do with our wife. I mean, I would say 99.999% of the guys in my program, their wife is more attractive and their sex is great compared to the people that they were sleeping with. Right. And so, it's very common that the women they were sleeping with are far less attractive and don't even meet their arousal template. As close as. So the point is, her narrative is that it's personal. If she was more attractive, in better shape, better in bed, that you wouldn't have done this to her, which is BS. That's not why it happened. But I bring that up just to your point, which is, if you guys are actually trying to navigate this as a couple, or if you have split up and you guys are navigating this independently, it's those stories though that culturally are, the ones that the bulk of people believe. And that's the point. That's the reason that it is so, in my opinion, important to get professional help, because society's, kind of story around why this happens and how it could have been prevented isn't backed by sound psychology. And so, you got to recover. So I want to speak to, and we can use me as an example again for this, and then you can kind of splice from there and just kind of enlighten us. But I have wondered often, Adam, how much being cheated on made me become a cheater, because so just a little bit of background. When I was cheated on, both of those times, I had not physically acted out. So I was still viewing pornography a couple times a week, but I had not cheated physically or had an emotional affair or a physical affair, or any kind of physical interaction. So I had not yet become a physical cheater when both of these things occurred. And I was very proud of that, because it was against my value system at the time. I don't know what the heck happened to that, but I have often wondered, I sense those moments. I've kind of had one foot in, one foot out from that day on. I mean, and I wonder how much of being cheated on did that. Now, just a little further background, already know this, Adam, and most of my audience knows this if you've listened to any other episodes. I've always kind of had an issue with trusting anyone. Everyone, like my parents, everyone was always forcing me to become something and believe things that I didn't want to become and I didn't want to believe. And so I had a long history through my whole childhood of really not believing that these people who love me have my back. And so fast forward, now I'm getting cheated on by people who love me. And then it happens again by somebody who loves me. And you gotta think, Adam, that's, if I'm seeing this repeated process of everyone just doing what they want and wanting me to comply, you got to think that that's my buy-in to humanity is decreasing every single time that happens. And I can't help but think, Adam, that, after that last time, and again, I'm not blaming anyone, or if that was a straw that I think there was a million straws. I'm not blaming any one of those instances, but you got to think from a relational standpoint, if that was my experience, is that going to alter my own judgment when I'm now making decisions? Yeah.
I mean, look, everyone's different. We're a product of our environment. It's as much as it is biological as it is environmental. And what I see, and I'm not saying this is an excuse or it's true, but when you come from a broken family, when you're taught that there's not much value in relationships, when you're, I'll say, on the other side of betrayal, when you're the one being cheated on maybe over and over again, like in your case, it's going to be hard to believe, first of all, in the whole idea of commitment, right? And your experience is, oh, people cheat, people leave, people can't be trusted. And from that, I think I see, like, with a lot of the men, actually, just like you, I work the other side of the fence, right? I have a lot of, as a CSAT, I have a lot of clients that do the cheating, which I love. I get to see both sides. And yeah, I think if I'm raised, or if I have so many experiences where it's scary to be vulnerable, and men, we already struggle with vulnerability, right? It's going to make sense that that might be a pattern for me to be aware of. I can also say that vulnerability is where you get to heal from that, right? Going all in. I like, I feel like, in my experience, my ex, I think she kind of always needed a backup plan.
Yeah.
And this isn't going to be about her, right? But when you grow up certain ways, I think that's how we feel safe, and that's how we feel secure, even if there's nothing the other person's doing. So that would be, so if I was to analyze you right now, Roland, I would say, like, right, like, trust. And when we struggle with trust, in some ways, we also struggle with our self-worth, because we need to trust people, and we need to trust ourselves. And all those things, they mess with a man's identity.
Yes.
And it messes with our sense of masculinity, or what it means to really be a man. I think betrayal, if you cheat or you're cheated on, I think that messes with your definition of who you are as a man. And what does it look like to be accountable and in integrity, and how you're
small, how, because that's what I've done a couple episodes on this, because I was accused, and I've been accused of this before, of not honoring trauma. And I think that's just, I can't stand when people say that. I mean, it's because I don't talk about it in the same way that everyone talks about it, because I think the way that everyone talks about it is a very powerless, sad, kind of unconstructive way to think about it. The way I think about trauma is, a thing happened, I drew conclusions about it, that spliced off into maybe me modifying my identity and modifying some of my belief systems and my data as to how I'm going to make decisions going forward. And now I'm making decisions based off of this traumatic, if we want to call it, event that occurred. But the trauma was my conclusion that I drew from how and why it happened to me, and the significance of it. So I look at it as, and again, I know there is an emotional piece to it that is stored in my, that is, I get that. I'm not belittling that. I just personally don't mess with that stuff, because why would I mess with it? I have an intimacy disorder, and I've been detached from my emotions. So, like, why would I help guys with that? So for everybody listening, if you're going to accuse me of that, I agree. I do actually not talk enough about that, but it's because it's not my lane.
It's not where,
I see a somatic experiencing therapist every week, because I can't do that without her help. She helps me feel and interpret what my feelings are. So anyways, that was not where I wanted to go.
But wait, on all that, I got a question for you.
Hit me.
So with your betrayal experiences, would you do them over again, or would you not want that to ever happen to you?
Being betrayed, or me betraying my wife?
No, you being betrayed.
Oh gosh. I mean, obviously, every time we look back in hindsight at conclusions that we drew, it's always a guess, right? I'll never really know what I was thinking when I was 22 years old when that happened. But I can tell you what I probably was thinking, because when I was 22, I'm still very narcissistic and grandiose, but I was very much so back then. So my guess would be, I told myself a story of, yep, fuck you. All you people do this same nonsense. I've known it all along. This doesn't surprise me. I expect this from you. And so I think that's why I got over it, because it's like, yep, my parents have done this. Everybody did this to me. No one's ever really taken an interest in my life besides me. So this is par for the course. And I think I told myself that story both times, and I don't know how much I believe it. I think it's very convenient. I think I know one thing about myself. I go royal very often. I like royal because it sounds so much cooler than victim, even though they're basically the same. I don't know. I think royal is actually worse because at least when you're a victim, you're kind of owning your victimness, whereas royal is like this covert, like, I'm not a victim, it's your fault. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's and again, I can confidently answer that. That's my go-to, Adam, with everything. I go royal. Anything that happens to me, I go royal with it because the story is very convenient for me because I don't really have to change. I'm already the woke one. They're the unconscious one, right? And so I've kind of gone that route a lot in my life, and it just makes it easier for me because then I don't have the problem. They have the problem. Then I can move on with my life.
Yeah. I was just wondering. I think I was just like, for me, like I've thought about it, and I mean, I don't ever want to have to experience those feelings again. And I think it was a profound life event that molded me, right? And kind of woke me.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to be. I'm very, very thankful for the recovery work I've had to do now since I have been the cheating person, because I don't think I ever realized how narcissistic some of my tendencies were. I don't think I realized how grandiose I still was. I don't think I realized, so I think recovery has forced me to, so from that standpoint, but I think going back, I'm sure there was a bunch of cool things that happened from those moments, but I also think it's probably contributed to what I did to my wife. So it's really hard for me to be thankful for it because I think I already struggled with humanity and I kind of carved out my romantic partners. But I think after those events, I think they became you people as well. So then everybody was you people, including the people that I was dating, which kind of opened the door to me kind of dishonoring their humanity and my own humanity. Because at that point in time, if even my romantic life partner is you people, at that point, screw it. I mean, why does anything even matter? And so I think, it's hard for me to see positive in it because I think it poured gasoline on a massive issue that ended up causing a lot of problems.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. And if you choose to, right, it opens us up to endless possibilities and healing and growth and changing how we show up in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think now in hindsight, right, we can go back to that traumatic event and look at the conclusions that I drew, which for me, it's not rocket science. I drew one big conclusion, which was, yep, you people are all the same. And it doesn't matter if you're my life partner, romantic partner, all you people do this shit to people was the story. And I say that, even this deep in my recovery, as much as I want to say I don't believe that childish story, brother, I think more of me believes that than doesn't. I mean, and that's why I always tell guys, keep your foot on the gas in recovery is my, to me, why take your foot off the gas? Don't you why wouldn't you want to continue to move past your grandiosity?
Look, if the train's moving, you don't stop putting coal in the engine, right? Like totally.
Keep it going. So I do want to go back to one thing you said, because I do think it'd be nice to touch on mistakes that we make. Because I the more and more we're talking, I am just thinking back to the guys in my groups. I think so many of them have been cheated on, just not by their current wife or their current partner. And so I do think going back and talking about some of the mistakes would actually be beneficial, because I think it might speak to unresolved traumas or what I find from a lot of stuff that I do wrong. I actually create new traumas by I don't know, faking myself out.
Not faking the trauma you're in or healing.
Correct. Making another, creating another massive barrier in my life from thinking that I was getting past something or blaming the wrong thing. I see this a lot in therapy, right? If you have not the great help or the help is not as informed and they make a very definitive statement, you might blame the wrong thing and then all of a sudden still be suffering from the thing that caused the problem.
Still stuck.
So talk to me about, when you mention the mistakes, what are those 1, 2, 3 mistakes that you're talking about?
Put me on the spot. There's a bunch. There's a few. I think the first one I want to talk about would be anger.
Sure.
And I think, most men don't know how to do what I want to call is healthy anger. right? We're scared of our anger, or we do anger really big, right? And that's not
Well, it's been
safe.
judged. It's been, I was
Yeah.
sent to anger management 4 times. Once when I was 4 years old, again when I was 7 years old, another time when I was 16 years old, and then the last time when I was 27 years old. And the message was just don't be angry. And if for everybody listening, anger management is a banished term. The psychologists are actually ashamed that we ever did that. So just so you know, we
Yeah.
no longer manage anyone's anger. We
Yeah.
figure out why
Well,
they're
look,
angry.
anger is a key feeling, right? If you look at the feeling wheels and all, right? It's, you have to have it like you have happiness and sad, right? It's important, but also like what you were alluding to is our society, like somewhere down the road, men, we were taught that don't be angry and it's not safe and it's not good and it's
Immature. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and all those things, and that's BS. And anger is an important part of the healing process. I like to call it, what's your healthy anger, right? It doesn't mean road raging, and it doesn't mean, you know, throwing a TV out the second story window. Although maybe that could be therapeutic. I don't know. Make sure no one's
No
below
one's
it, I
below.
guess, right?
Yeah.
Disclaimer: do not throw your TV out a window.
Yeah.
Get in trouble here. But yeah, I think when it comes to betrayal, men shut down. I can't be angry, right? And I think like missing out on your anger is a super important thing, right? And I'll just kind of throw out some ideas, some things I have some of my clients do, things I did, right? It's go on a bike ride,
Mm-hmm.
get into your body, right? If you do taekwondo, go do that. Go beat the crap out of the guy across from you, and he's going to be trying to beat the crap out of you. I've taken clients, I love doing this, putting bricks in a bag and writing on the bricks all your anger and carrying them on a hike. And when you think you want to let one of those go, look at it and throw it
Mm-hmm.
out there and proclaim what's going to be different, right? There's so many ways of letting that energy out, and that's healthy and safe. So that would be one thing I think men do wrong, is they don't speak to their anger.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is we shut down, right? We've kind of alluded to that some, right? Men get to a place where there's no support. No one will understand. I don't want to be the brunt of the joke. I don't want to, I already feel less than, I already feel like crap,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why do I want to put myself out? My heart already hurts. So I'm going to let someone else, hurt it more.
Mm-hmm.
So when we isolate, like actually, I know you do groups, you do retreats. I have a group, my next betrayal group starts on this coming Wednesday. And every time I do those groups and watch these guys, I wish I could take like pictures of them the first
Mm-hmm.
session and then the last session, because the way they look on the camera on Zoom and the way they interact and the way they feel, and you can just see they're free. They're witnessed, they're supported, they're loved, they're accepted for where they're at. Like imagine if the world was more like that for
Mm-hmm.
men, right? So there's that. And then I would say the third thing I want to bring up that I did wrong was boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you and I could probably, you can on your own even do like, you can do multiple podcasts on boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the one thing most all of us struggle with. And men, I find, struggle with them a lot because they don't know what a boundary is. They
Yeah.
weren't raised with a boundary. One of the things on my betrayal journey, I was so afraid of giving her boundaries because I didn't want to lose her. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
push her away. I didn't want to be mean. I just wanted to be accommodating. I wanted to be a doormat,
Yeah. Yeah.
basically. Right. And when I'm a doormat and I don't have boundaries, well, I have no self-esteem and I'm not angry. I'm not in my truth. So by not holding boundaries with my ex, the affair basically continued, and I felt extra powerless. I was
Mm-hmm.
in fear, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the things that I see happen a lot.
Yeah, and I think,
Go for it.
yeah, no, I like that because I think this happens. I think this happens as I was listening to those two things. I think this happens to the cheating partner and the betrayed partner. I think
Yeah.
both people. I think the issues that you're referring to. I think culturally this affects both sides. I think emotions get judged by yourself and by your partner, right? And I think we need to, I always tell everybody, and every guy listening needs to hear this. anger, frustration, all this stuff. They're cries for help, including anxiety and frustration. That's what it is. It's the way, when you look at the polyvagal theory or any of the theories that talk about emotional dysregulation, it serves a purpose. You're not getting that emotion for no reason. You're getting it as a sign to go do something. If you look at Stephen Porges, is that his name?
Yeah.
The philosophy is, the co-regulation was supposed to take care of that. And then if it doesn't, we have this kind of ramping of emotions, but they're cries for help. So I would just say that to the men and women listening to this, when you see your partner flipping out, I want you to try, and it's hard, it's really hard. But in that moment, try to assume this is a cry for help. This is a cry for help, because again, visually, you're going to judge it. And that's going to create all sorts of problems, because you're going to see this individual and you're going to be, how dare they, all this nonsense. In the end, really what the person's doing is, I need some freaking help. I feel there's injustices here. No one cares about me. How could this happen? That's where these emotions come from. And so, ignoring them, especially for guys who've been cheated on. I often wonder, Adam, how many, what did I feel under all of that? I tried to discredit the affair guy that she chose, because that made me feel better. But in the end, I bet you I was sad as hell underneath it all, man.
I didn't tell her. You were masking it. Actually, I love everything you just said. And to add to that, so many men that I work with, I see they just put up those walls, right? And that's, I'm going to be safe. And the whole, the wall metaphor, right? It's, I keep everyone out, but also keep myself trapped within, right? And then you're stuck and nothing changes. And then you want to talk about a trauma response or getting re-triggered, right? And re-experiencing these things or acting out, because that's your body, because you're holding all this energy in. I always tell my guys, I don't ever want you to put a wall up. Like, I want you to put a shield up. I want you to be able to block what you need to block, and then be here to receive the rest, right? And that's such a healthier way to have protection with openness, right?
Yeah, what I would say for the guys listening to this, because it is, and I see this over and over again. I did this in recovery. That's why I can speak to it so well. We're not telling you, because again, guys are like, oh, I don't want to feel my emotions. I don't want to express my emotions. I don't know what emotion, there's all this kind of stuff and baggage around it. Here's what I would tell everyone. They exist for a reason. So you guys, especially the guys in my program, they want data, they want proof, they want a roadmap, they want to know why. So here's what I would tell you guys. Your emotions matter, and you guys are all about biohacking and trying to find the most efficient way to live your life. Guys, I don't think I can think of a more valuable, tangible, because I consider emotions tangible. I know they're
we experience them. We can't see them.
Yeah, so, I know you can't see them, but I call them tangible because you can describe them. They're very, very real. Sure. Whereas, thoughts, beliefs, identity, that's not tangible. That's stuff we don't know where it is. We don't really know how to articulate it. So that's why so anyways, back to what I was saying. Guys, you need to care. If anybody is listening and you are doing breath work, journaling, cold plunging, or doing plant medicine, that's cool. I'm not saying all that stuff isn't cool. I do all that stuff too. So I'm not saying don't do it. What I am saying though is you will get a 100x ROI by paying attention to what your emotions are telling you, because all those other things that you're doing, if you look at the science behind a lot of these new kind of biohacking, different things that are they're all helping you get better at thinking, performing. But again, it all revolves around finishing the job. And what I mean by finishing the job is the emotions there. It's telling you a thing. If you guys are really as badass and as efficient as you're claiming to be, finish the job with the emotions. There is outstanding amounts of evidence wherever you look that emotions matter and they point to things. And for guys to ignore them, not pay attention to them, not become obsessed with how to resolve them, I banish you from jumping in your little cold plunge and claiming that you're this and getting up at 4 a.m. and doing your little whatever you're doing with your inner child meditation, that's all cool. But I banish you from doing any of that until you can feel your emotions and work with them, and then go back to all that badass stuff. Because again, the emotions are low hanging fruit, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think I would even add to this. I would tell all the men out there, it's time for you to be honest with yourself, right? Because these stories and these situations, they'll just keep repeating themselves over and over again in different ways. So listen to your body, listen to your truth, be in your power, and be brutally honest with yourself. And if you're in pain, and it could be from a partner or something you did to yourself or to someone you care about, ask for help, ask for support. Because I always tell my guys, like, to me, the bravest man, the strongest man isn't the one with the biggest muscles. It's the guy who understands his feelings, can articulate his feelings, is not afraid of his feelings, and sure the hell is willing to be in his truth no matter how messy it is.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, those are the men I want in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we get through this work.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we heal.
Yeah, it's a the emotion. Before we move on from this, because I think I know we didn't intend to talk about this, but I think it's a really fun topic, and I think you're really great at talking about it. But to me, on the yes, we have sadness or helplessness, or okay, you pick the emotion, right? And yes, I know the title of that emotion. I think this is why guys avoid emotions. When we see helpless or depressed, or we look at that word and it's like, oh hell no, I don't want to be a guy who feels that. And then we bolt. But here's the thing, just everyone entertain this for a second. Okay, yes, it's spitting out this unpleasant emotion that you have categorized as weak or feminine or whatever it is that you're labeling it as. Here's the thing though, just go one step back from that. How did your body feel? Why do you feel behind? Why do you feel less than? Why do you feel inadequate? Like I said, those nasty emotions that you go to judge, if we go right before that and you look at the belief system, that you guys should really take an interest in that. Because if you are believing a belief set that is constantly making you end every day with feeling less than and behind, that is harming your potential and your performance, because you have some measure that is I would say probably inaccurate. If you're finishing every day behind and judging yourself for how poorly you performed, you got to fix whatever that measurement tool is, because regardless, maybe you're not as, doing as much as you wish you were. I can assure you this, ending every day feeling that way is going to harm your ability to be able to perform at this level that you are desiring to perform. So I just, before we wrap that up, I just want to show guys, like, okay, yes, you can judge the emotion at the end of it and maybe say it's childish, feminine, weak, whatever. But like I said, stop judging it. I don't know why. There's zero benefit to labeling it. Just go back and ask yourself, why is this here? Because again, it's to me, you want to know biohack, what I have learned doing my somatic work and learning how to feel my feelings. Brother, I actually do I've told this story before, but I want to say it again because it's so cool. It takes me 30 seconds to say. My wife got triggered at the gym. There's a woman who was pretty aggressively checking me out. And I saw, and like, normally that doesn't happen. I would say women are very, very sneaky about it. If not, they don't do it at all. Right. But this was not that case. This was happening. It was very obvious. And I knew it. And so my somatic experience therapist stopped me though. We weren't even doing the work. I was just framing the situation. She goes, hold on, stop. She goes, how did you know your wife was going to be activated by that? Because my wife wasn't even in the room yet. And I already knew. I was like, I need to go on a different piece of equipment. This isn't going to be good. And she stopped me and she goes, whoa, Roland, how did you know that though? And I was like, but it was interesting. When she made me do that, I connected a dot and I was like, you know what? I wonder how many things in my body are happening all day, every day, informing me about how to protect my wife, how to protect myself, how how many of these subtle cues because of my business brain am I not listening to? So anyways, I don't know how we got on that topic, but I want to say this to all the guys listening. If you are not feeling emotions, or you're not taking feeling emotions seriously and you're not trying to feel them, guys, I'll tell all of you, you are missing out. me tapping into how I feel has been the number one thing I have done in my life that has led me to the most positive revenue production too. Like all things, just yes, improve my relationship, but also making more money, right? I'm picking up on cues that I normally wouldn't have picked up on now that I'm taking my emotions very seriously.
Yeah. Well, to add on to that, I don't know how you can be in your authentic self without that.
True that. Yeah, true that.
Right. And often I see when I have clarity in my life, when I'm in my truth, right? And this goes with betrayal, with sex addiction, whatever we want to call it, sexual compulsivity, all those things. Like when I'm in my truth, when I'm in my power, when I'm accountable and in integrity, life
Mhm.
flows so much better. And
Mhm.
that goes with how I'm treating my partner, how my partner treats me, again, how I'm doing boundaries, how I'm showing up, right? I can rediscover my values and my passions and those parts of me that are in shadow, like you were kind of alluding to, right? And if they're in shadow, they're going to trip you up every time, I guarantee it.
And for everybody listening, you probably have noticed that I bring a guest on, we have a topic of discussion, and you've probably
We're not
noticed,
there.
well, you've probably noticed that, and this happens every time, but here's what I want to tell all the listeners is, in the end, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Again, sex addiction, betrayal, compulsive behaviors,
All that stuff.
pain, trauma. We can say all the words, but I think the reason every time I bring a guest on, it comes back to humanity every time. I just had a gal right before you and I met who I interviewed, and hers was about a very specific neurological brain thing that she does. Very, very specific. But where did the conversation go? To exactly this. And they always go there. And I think I just wanted to highlight this, Adam, for everybody listening is, I know sometimes this might seem like a broken record or like, oh gosh, these guys, but in the end, it's because we can talk in circles about porn and sex forever. But in the end, this comes back to violating tried and true human existence. When you don't feel your emotions, there's a side effect that's going to happen to that. It might not be sex and porn addiction and betrayal, but there's going to be something that'll happen as a side effect. You can't cut off your humanity without having something be affected on the other side. And I think that's why, guys are often like, hey, let's cut to the chase here. Let's talk about my sex addiction, my porn addiction, right? Like I don't need you to help me with all this other childhood stuff. I need to just fix this so I can carry on with my life. Again, all of these, let me say it this way, Adam. Humans, when not messed up by bad advice, experiences that were not accurately explained to them or therapeutically resolved, a lifelong history of this stuff happening starts messing with the person's psychology. And now there's pathological or disruptive or unwanted behaviors occurring. But I think if you go all the way back, and this is why your therapists are always encouraging guys to do your inner child work and trauma is, I know guys are often annoyed by all that shit, but here's why they do it is there was once a version of you that wasn't going to hire a prostitute to have sex with. Right. I mean, there was once a version of you that would never say the things that you have now said to your wife out of anger. There was once a version of you, like that's why we call it recovery, is it's like, hey, let's get back to that version of you that was nice to everyone and did not assume that everyone was out to get them, that the world can't be trusted, that it's every man for himself, that I have no inherent value unless there was once a version of you that didn't feel the need to make millions and millions and millions of dollars to be liked. He just went to school and assumed that everyone was going to like him because he's a person. So it's like, how can we get back to that and then remember that kid was actually right and that all the adults are wrong?
Yeah. And actually that part's still in you somewhere.
Yeah, of course. It's never lost. They call it the Buddhists call it the sun behind the clouds, right? It's still there. It's cloudy.
It's always there. So
yeah. So let's wrap this up with your big blind spot. when you got into this work and you wrote the book, every author writes a book because there is a blind spot. None of us just write a book if all the blind spots have already been covered. That's never what an author do. They write the book because they feel like there's something that has not been said in the way that you can say it. I want you to tell the audience, where did this passion come from when you wanted to bring this work to the world?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the truth is, I was just kind of pissed. I was pissed because I think when it comes to our mental health and our feelings, we get the short end of the stick. I don't think we're supported. I think there's all kinds of expectations on us. I was pissed that when I went through it, I looked up for books and I bought books and all it talked about was the man being the cheater. I was pissed even we were just at the ITAP and a couple things I was in and they're like, and for lack of blah, 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 we're going to say the man's the cheater. And I was just like, man, this shit's still going on, like in my profession, right? So I'm pissed. And I think men need to have a voice. And I think and I want men, the other part is I hate the shame. Like telling my story, I was scared putting some of my stuff in the book, right? Exposing myself, if you will, to the world of what I went through. And what I learned from that is I have nothing to be ashamed of. And you brought it up at the beginning, like statistically, I think it's almost 50-50. I think almost as many men are cheated on as women. Just men don't report it. And the industry, I'm going to say in many ways, I don't think the industry cares. But that's my mission, man. I'm on a mission and I want men to know that it doesn't make you less of a man. Actually, I'm going to challenge guys out there to tell you, I think it makes you more of a man to admit that you went through that and to admit that you deserve better. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to be adored. You deserve to be respected. And you deserve to have a partner that does the same. And just because this happened to you doesn't mean it'll happen again. Actually, my guess is, and what I know I've experienced, I'm remarried, is I think it's going to be, and it is, the total opposite. And you met my wife. And so that's it. That's my mission. That's why I wrote this book.
Yeah, it's my mission too. I believe, yes, men, but even more so, successful men get screwed. Everyone looks at them, and there's a lot of disdain and resentment towards successful men from, especially when a woman gets betrayed. There is an extra level of animosity towards wealthy, successful, entitled men. And I get it. I understand. I'm not saying I get why they're doing that. Here's my rebuttal and why I wrote the book is what made them that way. Like, that's the thing is we do that, and it drives me crazy with successful men because we are sensitive towards all these different cultures because we know that, hey, maybe a lot of the reason that the things that they're doing, we might not like it, but the reason they're doing it is there's reasons for it. And it's not necessarily their fault. We still don't like it and we would like it to stop, but it's not their fault. Right. And we're so sensitive to this for these individuals, but not with successful men. And it's because, typically they're charismatic. They have money. Yeah, exactly. It's easy to be like, oh, that guy doesn't need help. Look at his life. Yeah. The irony is actually, I'm not going to say every, but I will say this, and I'm going to confidently say 99 out of 100 successful men are fucked up beyond. They don't trust people. They are addicted to performance-based. If they were not performing, they would not be okay. They would literally not be okay. They would be depressed. They might even take their own life. I don't think successful men know how sick they are. And I don't think the public knows how sick they are. And I think we need to be curious and full of grace around them and I think here's the main reason I wrote the book is these men also don't want you to know how weak and sad they are. And so they are actively pushing you away. And by you letting them push you away, you are facilitating the very problem that you hate. That's why I wrote my book is, listen, I know you're calling all these guys names and whatever, but in the end, you are literally giving them what they want and making it worse. You know what to do with these guys? Give them a hug. give them a hug, listen,
Give
right?
everyone a
Same
hug.
thing. Yeah, same thing we do for everybody. Hug
Yeah.
them and listen.
We all bleed the same. We all hurt the same. And it's those,
Yeah, just because they got money doesn't mean they're any different than anybody else, right?
No.
Yeah. So
And actually, sometimes that money, like you were saying, and I see it with some of my clients that, higher wealth men that I work with, it even creates more walls and more shame
100%,
and more
because now you can't
expectations.
you're not allowed to have problems, right? That's the problem with
No,
becoming
you have your
successful.
shit together, right? You right, and it just doesn't. Look, at the end of the day, men are men, and that's why I'm so passionate about men's work and helping men heal.
I have a feeling we're gonna do more episodes on this because again, for everybody listening, whether you've been cheated on or not, what you will find with recovery work, both with addicts and betrayed people, is in the end, like, I know there's all these specialists and certifications, guys. In the end, we're humans and people, and I think sometimes we over specialize this. In the end, it's a bunch of sad people with needs who are just trying to do the freaking best they can. And sometimes they cheat, sometimes they get cheated on. And if they aren't cheaters or being cheated on, they might be doing something else. But I mean, to me, I think sometimes we look at cheaters and betrayed people as extra special. And there is definitely a level to this trauma that is higher than a lot. I'll give you that. I think what my wife has gone through, I don't know if I've seen anyone that I've known go through what these betrayed people are going through. But at the same time, it really, I think if we over specialize it, I think we miss the point. And in the end, it's just people trying the best they can. And we have a lot more in common than we don't have in common. There was a study that did that, right? It was like, they asked these people these surveys, and every question was polarized opposites. And those are the first 12 questions. And then the last 12 questions were just around like humanity and just being people. And the people who were polarized, everyone answered the same when we got down to the humanity piece. And it was a cool survey because it was basically just showing
validates
we have more in common than we don't have in common.
100%.
Hey, Adam, how do people find you if and again, guys, I want to encourage everybody listening to this. If you guys know of a guy who was cheated on, it doesn't hurt to send Adam's website to the person. The guy's not going to reach out. So I'm counting on everybody listening to send Adam's website, because the guy who needs this isn't going to do it. That's just what guys do. Well, I won't say he won't. 99 out of 100 of them will not. So they are counting on you be a good friend and send Adam's website. Adam, what's the website? What's the book?
Yeah. So the website's pretty easy. betrayalshrink.com. You can also email me, Adam@betrayalshrink. And then the book, A Man's Guide to Partner Betrayal. It's on Amazon. Look my name up. You can find me. Actually, I have a couple workbooks and stuff on there too. So yeah. Thanks. Yeah, Roland, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for this, brother. You and I always have fun conversations. We see eye to eye on this stuff, which I really, really like. But this was fun. We'll do it again, I'm sure.